I've talked quite a bit about features and certain like specific topics like the storage and the price and, you know, the design, the controller, but the games themselves is what's going to sell the console, and that is the most important thing here. So we're going to talk about the games, how they play, how they look, how they feel, what games to look forward, like just anything about the games is what we're going to talk about right now. If you take a quick scrub through the channel, you will notice one thing that is constant, and it's performance. Performance is extremely important to me when I'm playing any game, and coming from PC gaming, I always cater towards performance, and playing on a 1080p monitor, you know, that is me keeping that in mind, that I really don't care to have the max fidelity. I rather play on my monitor at higher performance, higher frames, better, smoother gameplay than having a 4K 30 frame experience on my TV. And that's just my absolute reality. And I feel like not everyone's like that. There's going to be people that will want to play their game in all its glory in 4K on their best TV. And even if it's in 30 frames, they don't care because it looks nice. I just can't afford to think like that, especially after playing on a PC for a long time. It's the reason I didn't use my PS4 after having a PC, because I just couldn't go back to experiencing those certain games at such low performance. Even though they looked cool and fun and pretty, it was hard playing those. Like I played Horizon Zero Dawn after having a PC, and even though the game was great, not being able to have that game in at least 60 frames was a huge like disappointment, like a setback, not a disappointment, just like it was uncomfortable to play that or God of War or even Spider-Man on PS4. It was just like, this game is good, but it could be so much better if it ran better. And the PS5 fixes all of that for me personally. Being able to play crazy big open world story games in at least 60 frames is amazing. Ghost of Tsushima, 60 frames, open world, beautiful. Spider-Man, it has performance, fidelity, mixed performance, ray tracing, whatever. They have a lot of options, and I'm still going to opt for the one that gives me at least 60 frames. The games just feel so much better when you're playing 60 frames. If you don't know the difference, when you do encounter a game that is in 60 frames, you will know. And if it's higher than 60 frames, you will be like, whoa, what is, like, that is the best experience for me. I don't really care about fidelity. I have opted for performance in all of my games, and I just wish by default games would put you in performance mode so that you're like, dang, like this is what I've been missing out on. Some people play half the game in fidelity mode or 30 frames and realize there was an option for 60 FPS or 120 depending on the game, and they're like enlightened at that point. So yeah, games running in higher frame rates is a huge, I can't even stress how much of an impact and difference that is coming from any of the previous generation consoles to seeing many games opting for this better performance is just a relief. Makes a lot of things more playable, especially if you're coming from PC. It's not like this drag, like, oh, I'm losing so much performance. At least you're going to 60 frames from your PC. Like, I'm playing PC, I'm having a great time in 180 frames, and then dropping down to 120 or 60 isn't as drastic as dropping down to 30. It's gotten to the point where when I'm playing a game that doesn't have, like Bloodborne, let's use Bloodborne for an example, it doesn't have 60 FPS, and it's prevented me and a lot of people from playing it because we already know, or we are so used to playing games in much better performance that it's just not worth to even, like, it takes away from the experience is what I'm trying to say. It takes away from you enjoying the game when the game doesn't run at, you know, it just, I don't even have words. Let's just move on from this topic because you guys know I love boasting about 120 FPS and 60 FPS and blah, 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 blah. But anyway, games on PS5 do support 60 FPS 4K. Certain games, I think, do it in 4K 120. And it will depend on your screen. I mostly play everything on a monitor until I want to play like a really narrative-driven or story-based game. I will switch to the TV a lot of the times for that, unless I'm too lazy or don't want to sit in front of the TV and I'm already working at the computer and I just want to use my other monitor to play PlayStation. Then I will have an HDMI that runs from my TV back here, it's behind the camera, to the PS5, and then I also have my monitor that goes to the back of the PS5. So whenever I want to play either one of those, I just swap between. I never move the system. It stays exactly where it is, and I just move back and forth myself. It really depends how I'm feeling that day, but having the option to do either or is nice. Like I can play 4K 60 frames on my TV if that's what I'm feeling, or I can switch it to 120 FPS playing on a monitor in 1080p, and it looks equally as good to me personally, because I don't need maximum fidelity to enjoy my game. I rather just play the smoother experience, or if I'm in the mood for that smoother experience, I can play it right here on my monitor, and that's that. Now, speaking of performance and how I mentioned the price, $399 for a 60 FPS 4K experience is wonderful, and 120 FPS being possible on a $399 machine is outstanding. Like, those are just great options for the price of the system. Now, when you're overpaying, like you're paying $800 for 120 FPS, it doesn't make sense, because you can almost pay $800 to $1,000, or if not a little bit more, for a PC that will do over 120 FPS, and it's worth that amount. You're overpaying when you're only getting 120 FPS, but at $399 or $500, and you're getting 120 FPS as an option at all, that's like a bargain. You don't see that anywhere else. No other computer, or a lot of computers, aren't giving you that level of performance for that price. So that right there, my friends, is called value. There's no 1440p support, and I think they also advertise 8K, but we're not even at that point yet. And honestly, it's too early to tell where we're going to go from here. So for right now, and the year that I've had my system, I've completely enjoyed my games in 1080p or in 4K. And it's been great either way. I can't complain about when I'm playing on my 1080p monitor, because the smaller the screen, this is a 24-inch monitor. If your screen is smaller and you're playing in 1080, it's not a huge setback. But once you go bigger and you're in 1080, then you start seeing some of those losses in quality. But playing in 4K on a big screen is just as great as playing in 1080 on a small screen, with better performance, obviously, on the monitor. Games perform better. They're going to be faster. They're going to load faster. I'm talking about PS5 specific games. They're going to add new features and just do things with the controller that weren't being done on previous generation controllers or consoles. Then we have the option to play certain games competitively on PS5. On PS4, you're probably not going to want to even think about playing a game competitively, but being able to use a mouse and keyboard on certain games on the PS5 is an option that is worth thinking about when you're thinking about buying either a computer or a budget system, a budget console. So having that as an option is great. I've showed that a number of times here on this channel. It's something that should be exposed for people that just don't have the money for a PC, or just don't know they can play mouse and keyboard on their console while having a pretty decent experience. At 120 FPS with mouse and keyboard, trust me, it's pretty good. Not that long ago, they started selling graphics cards with ray tracing capabilities, and to see ray tracing on a console is a huge step up, and I'm sure it's only going to get better from here. Even though I do cater towards performance most of the time, I do dabble into the fidelity side of things sometimes, just to see how good it can actually be. And having ray tracing on a console is pretty impressive. Having reflections and just shadows and particle effects, all that stuff, at its maximum, like fidelity, beautifully looking, graphically impressive state of performance or visual. It's not what I'll go after personally, but having the option is nice, and just having options is important when you're on a console, because it's not something we've had before. So when you go in settings now and you see a display tab or a graphics tab, and there's actually more than a brightness setting, that makes me happy, and it should make a lot of people happy, because we're moving in a direction that allows for more customization over your experience, how you're looking at the game, how it feels, how smooth it is, how graphically enhanced it can be. Like, having those settings and options is definitely important. It's definitely one of the things that has made the experience on PS5 a lot more worth than playing anywhere else. There's been instances where I'd rather play on my PS5 versus my computer. And even though I complain about there not being an FOV slider on console in games like Warzone, We do have 120 FPS support, and it runs pretty smoothly for the most part. And it's consistent, and it's not just in that game. In other games that like Vanguard or other shooters that you have the ability to play in 120 FPS, that might be better than my experience on PC. Even if I did have the FOV slider on PC, I'm not able to keep a consistent frame rate of 120 or higher in some cases. So having that option on the PlayStation has made me cater towards that console. Like the Vanguard game, I got it on PS5 because I already liked how Cold War ran, so I was like, hey, I'm going to go for the PS5 version. I think 120 FPS on console runs great, feels great. I knew there was going to be an FOV slider there, so I don't regret buying that game on console versus my PC. Obviously, this is a comparison to PC. PCs are different depending on what you have inside of them, but in my personal case, there's been cases where I'd rather play the game on my PS5 versus my computer. Games perform well, they look amazing on here, and I can't really complain about visuals. Games have looked great for a long time. I mean, PS4 had Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man, The Last of Us, and God of War. All of those games, I have no complaints about how they looked visually. The complaints are all about how they performed. And bringing those to the PS5 and having them look just as beautiful and perform even better just makes that equation work a whole lot more for me. In the past year, I've had the opportunity to play a lot of those PS4 games on the PS5 and see just how much better they can look, and trust me, they are all like amazing. Besides Bloodborne, please. Just Bloodborne still runs at 30 frames, so I mean, there's not much we can say there. I know it's like something tied to the engine and the physics and all whatever is going on in the game, so that's just a secluded, isolated instance. But other games, God of War, The Last of Us, Horizon, all of those games look and play beautiful on the PS5. Ghost of Tsushima even got a PS5 enhanced edition. That one, even the PS4 version of that game on PS5 ran well, looked well. It's just all those games were pretty great. And what's cool about the PS5, and this is something that makes it a lot worth it if you haven't had the chance to play these games, is if you absolutely skipped the PS4 era. I just mentioned a bunch of games that were probably the best in the PS4 era, and the PS5 allows you to have access to the PS collection or the PlayStation collection, and you can try out a lot of these greatest hits games that were on PS4, and you could try them out right out the box on PS5. You have access to them as long as you have PlayStation Plus, and they're all free, and you can take your time with them. They're all great games. God of War's on there, Days Gone, Bloodborne, Uncharted. There's a lot of games on there that you can try, and I think that's cool that they included that in there. A lot of the times we get a new console and you have no games for it. At least in this case, it's 2021 and moving to 2022. I don't know if they're going to update the collection, but they give us the option to at least have some games to start our journey with the PS5 with, and that's great for people that don't necessarily have a game they're looking, they don't have a game right off the box. So that's good. In the past year, I've played some pretty awesome games. Right now I'm playing Deathloop. I've tried Returnal a little bit. Adaptive triggers and sound design in that game are amazing. Demon Souls, one of the first games I played, absolutely amazing. Still haven't beat it. Probably won't beat it, and we're probably going to get to Elden Ring, and I'm still not going to be done with that game. But visually, a masterpiece, and the use of the DualSense was amazing. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, I don't platinum games often, and I don't care to, but this one I absolutely fell in love with. I platinumed it. I did everything there is to do in that game. Visually, it looks amazing. One of the coolest and prettiest looking games that are probably on PS5 that are PS5 specific games. Kena Bridge of Spirits doesn't fall very far behind in that category because it looks stunning. And to think that it's from a smaller studio and it's not as grand of a scale as Ratchet & Clank, that game was awesome and looks amazing. Makes good use of the DualSense as well, and we need more games like that. It just proves that these I'm gonna use the word animated. Proof that animated games just age better, if that wasn't already evident. These games look amazing, play amazing, feel amazing, and those are two of the experiences that I've had a really good time with. Let's see, Call of Duty. I've been like a tester for Call of Duty this whole year, showing you guys what it plays like, what it looks like, using mouse and keyboard on it. I've just had a lot of fun kind of experimenting and comparing how the console runs compared to my Xbox, how it runs compared to my PC. I'm thinking about making a side-by-side comparison of what the experience is like on Xbox Series S versus my PS5, since I have been using both of those pretty much, on par with each other. I've actually used the Xbox a little bit more now since I've, Game Pass, PlayStation. We're waiting for Game Pass. But when I do use my PlayStation, it's always like a quality experience, and that's what you're paying for. You're getting these really good quality experiences, which is where it differs or where it sets itself apart from any other console or any other games, because with the PS5 and with the way the games are being made, it just goes hand in hand, and the experiences are going to continue to look and feel better. Miles Morales was beautiful on PS5, and those are just some of the ones I can think of on the top of my head that I've really enjoyed on PS5 specifically. Now, moving into the new year in 2022 is where we're going to see things ramp up a bit, and early in the year we get Horizon Forbidden West, and I am extremely excited about that game. It looks amazing. We got Elden Ring, we got Horizon, Spider-Man's not next year, but I'll be ready for that when it comes out. And just moving forward in general, it's gonna, it's looking and it's shaping up to be one of the greatest console set of years in a long time. Like, PS4 was the best. Come on, we can't argue with that. They gave us some of the coolest games during the PS4 era, and the library is probably the largest. I feel like there's so many PS4 games, but now moving into PS5 in 2022 and so on, we're getting like the fact that we started the year with games like Ratchet and Clank, which is a heavy hitter, a PlayStation classic, and going into next year with God of War, which was kind of at the end of, I don't actually know how close to the beginning of the lifespan of the PS4 God of War was. Now, I don't think it was the beginning though, and Horizon was definitely not the beginning, and Spider-Man was not the beginning. But the fact that we're getting God of War Ragnarok in year 2 of the PS5's life cycle is incredible, and even though it might cater towards PS4, it's still a heavy hitter on PS5, and so is Horizon Forbidden West. And even though those are still on PS4, it's just nice to see that. And we're going to probably move into 2023 seeing games that are only on PS5. I think Spider-Man might be, and Wolverine might be, and that might be that's only going to be year 3 at that point. I guess my point is that we're off to a great start. There's a lot to look forward to. If you don't have a PlayStation 5, these are definitely reasons to have one. If you care about any of those titles, those are some of the few that you could, be ready for when they come out. Aside from just having a good system to play the current games we already have, even if they're multi-platform games, like if they're on Xbox or on PC or anywhere, having them on PS5 won't hurt you if you're just preparing for those other games that are coming later down the line. It doesn't hurt to have great already existing games on your PS5 as well. I absolutely haven't had my PS5 as a trophy. I've made good use of it. I've used it day in and day out, constantly. And I've obviously started a YouTube journey because of this console, so I have that reason as well. And if I mentioned any reason that might get you hyped up to own one of these things, then there you go. You can agree with me, you can disagree with me. Overall, it is a great experience, and it is something to look forward to if you are a PlayStation fan, if you are a gaming fan in general. If that doesn't answer the question by now, yes, the PlayStation 5 has been absolutely worth it. Even in the little time that I've had it, a year is not that long, but it's enough to know that I will make good use of this system and that it will continue to only get better. I've talked quite a bit about features that exist and things that I've used in the past year, but moving forward, I am really hoping for a few things, and off the top of my head, I can think of Discord. I really need Discord on PlayStation. I would love to just chat with my friends while I'm playing some of these games without having to be on my PC at the same time. PlayStation Game Pass, they're working on it. That is something I'm looking forward to. For them to allow us to use the PS4 controller on games that are not using the DualSense features, that would be nice too. To update the UI a little bit more would be nice. Make this thing more available for people that are having such a hard time looking for it. And I can't really think of many other ones at the moment, but yeah, it's been nice. I'm looking forward to whatever the future holds with the console. I'm looking forward to continue making videos for this system. And I am going to end the video here. I feel like I've been talking for like an hour and a half now. And I just had a lot to say. There's a lot to look forward to. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one.